This time, Miller time. Cameroon 1990. The indomitable Lions roar.
No, nay, never. No, nay, never, no more. 'Cause I'll stay a wild rover forever and more.
Hello and welcome to by far the greatest team, a podcast in which football fans attempt the impossible to decide once and for all who is the greatest team of all time. My name is Graham Dunn, making the case for Oxford United, and are my red devil in the corner, adding up all the stats that really make sense of it, is Jamie Rooney.
Yeah, Red Devil wearing a green football shirt. And as we know from our Saint Etienne episode, green doesn't always bring you good luck. But coincidentally, just wearing a Sporting Lisbon top, just pulled it out, a retro top. Can't be any reason why I was gravitating towards Sporting Lisbon today.
Yes, the Lisbon revolution has begun there for some reason. Yes, we are going green again. And I think teams in green kit always stand out. And I think actually, and we'll come on to the detail of this, but there's a point at which Cameroon in the World Cup 1990, which you talk about, play Colombia. It's two of the most colourful kit combinations I think you get in world football.
It's like a bag of Skittles, isn't it? It's just got the rainbow of colours. And it's also a period of time where football kits were starting to become a bit crazy in the 1990s. And then we went through those incredible goalkeeper shirts in the mid 1990s, where it looked a bit Jackson Pollock than a regular green goalkeeper's jersey, which is a thing of the past.
Yes, very definitely. So yes, we are looking at Cameroon 1990, and as we've done more and more of these podcasts, I think we're into the 80s in terms of the number of teams that we've done. I find it interesting because we have some sort of lines which you can kind of join up. And last week we were talking about Doncaster Bells, and that feels like a very natural progression from, albeit 50, 60 years later, to Dick Kerr Ladies. And with Africa, actually, we've done quite a lot of work around this team. To some extent, I think, is the missing link in terms of the World Cup teams that we've done. We have, of course, done the amazing Zaire in 1974. We've done Algeria in 1982, the team so cruelly robbed of the chance of progressing to the final group stage. And then more recently, we've done Ghana and the incredible side that so nearly, but for a Luis Suarez handball, would have made it and progressed through.
Brilliant save. It was a brilliant save.
It is. No one disputes it's a great save. No one disputes that. And this story, Cameroon, is really, to some extent, is the story that fits in between that period, because Cameroon, of course, are the first African country to qualify and make it out of the group stage. And they are, and they so nearly do better than that. And I think in many ways, especially people of our vintage, Cameroon are the ultimate African World Cup side. Would you say that's fair, Jamie?
I think what Cameroon do in 1990 is that they actually do put Africa on the football map properly for the first time. Prior to that, just a slight correction, Morocco did make it out of the group stages in 1986. We're the same group as England. They were the first African team to do that. Yeah, but they fell at the round of 16 phase. But yeah, I think Cameroon's performance, not just that they are the first African team to get to the quarterfinals of a World Cup, it's also the style of their play, which was absolutely exhilarating and exciting. And they got off to one of the most incredible starts, which I think just snowballs the interest in Cameroon from that very first game.
This is their second World Cup, isn't it? So they actually qualify in 1982, and actually they do pretty well there.
Well, they're unbeaten. They draw 3 games. They're in a group with Italy, the eventual winners, Peru and Poland. Poland, the semi-finalists of that edition. And Cameroon draw all 3 games. So they're in a group with the eventual winners and the third place team of the overall tournament when it finishes. and they don't lose a game, which is a pretty mean performance. But it kind of goes unnoticed because the other African team that qualified in 1982 took more of the headlines because of the disgrace of Gijón, Algeria, who we have covered when Austria and West Germany colluded like absolute villains.
And in that 1982 World Cup, bearing in mind that, you know, a 30-year-old Roger Milla probably thinks this is going to be his only chance to play in a World Cup. It's far from it.
Yeah, and he doesn't really do anything. He doesn't score any goals in that World Cup. And by the time 1990 comes around, you're absolutely right. He's pretty much retired. He's playing out in Reunion, and he's played most of his career in France. And at 38 years old, he is settling down for the rest of his life outside football until the president of Cameroon, gives him a call and says, "Do you fancy coming and playing for our boys?"
I mean, it is incredible. And I mean, history judges this intervention by the president far more kindly than an awful lot of other presidential interventions. And we were talking about one of the World Cup in 1978, not only a couple of weeks ago, which history doesn't remember altogether fondly. But as a general rule, you know, leaders and governments involved in deciding who should play or how they play isn't a good thing. And in fact, we saw with Zaire, the government and the president's intervention was equally disturbing. Yet in this instance, it turns out to be a masterstroke.
Yeah, it really is, because he becomes the ultimate super sub for the team. I don't think he actually starts a single game in this tournament. He's used off the bench because obviously of his age, but more importantly, because of his experience. And as we pick apart how Cameroon navigate their way through to the quarterfinal, there's some pretty interesting statistics that will showcase that Roger Milla coming off the bench is the ultimate super sub, because he does change. Not only does he score the goals, he's making goal chances and changing the shape of games. So it's a bit of a masterstroke, really, from the Russian coach at the time, Valery Neponisha.
Who from this moment on will be known as the Russian coach.
The Russian coach, yes, in one of his early roles. Yeah, Valerie. So, I mean, it's great to have incredible experience, because Roger Milla is a fantastic footballer. He was a fantastic footballer, even to the point of going to the World Cup in 98. He had a pretty successful time in France, in Ligue 1.
We can point you in the direction of, there is a documentary on another BBC documentary after you watched the Doncaster Bells one. There's one on the BBC iPlayer, Green Lion, which does tell some of this story, which is definitely from a footage perspective, I think is definitely worth watching. And as part of that, they do sort of talk about the selection of Roger Milla is a divisive one on the one hand, and actually you still see that, you know, across the board, even you know, with Portugal and Ronaldo at this last major tournament. And again, it can be divisive to bring in a player who has such a reputation around them, and to be able to, you know, to what extent when do you decide enough is enough? We have to go with the new generation. And Roger Milla obviously is the suggestion that it's never too late.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a bit of angst from the younger players that they don't want this oldie coming in. After we get to the end of July, there's a different feeling about Roger Milla, and he even makes the squad in 1994 at the ripe old age of 42, and goes on to become the oldest goal scorer in World Cup history. So whatever feeling there was prior to Milla being included in the 1990 squad, I think that's been evaporated, and history has written a completely different script for him now.
Yeah, definitely so. So this Cameroon side, they've got an okay kind of record at this stage. The Russian coach comes in especially for this tournament, or was he around before then?
No, he was already there before. He is fairly new to football management. Nepon Niashi.
Fair play.
Yeah, nothing Nyashi, which is probably completely wrong. His football career was cut short at the age of 25. He only played really third tier stuff, but he had an eye for coaching and physical education. And then that kind of gave him his first job. And then he moved into the Cameroon manager in 1988 and only stayed for 2 years. So he left after this particular World Cup. And again, not a journeyman like our favourite journeyman of a journeyman, Claudio Ranieri. But yeah, a bit of a journeyman. He's managed, went on to manage in China, in Turkey, South Korea, in Japan, in Russia, Uzbekistan, a number of footballing hotbeds.
Now, they come to this World Cup, and ahead of the World Cup, as appears to be the case most occasions when African teams in the 1970s, 80s and so forth approached the World Cup, there appeared to be a row about how much money they were being paid. That did seem to be another element. We've seen that particularly around the Zaire tournament, and I think it's a recurring feature with several African teams at the World Cup. In fact, not just African teams, in fairness. And, they are pretty unheralded coming into this tournament. And they start with the toughest task of all, really, which is they have to play in the showpiece opening game against Argentina, which is Diego Maradona's Argentina in 1990. He's still not bad. Argentina are still not bad. This is a difficult assignment, isn't it?
This is ripe Maradona. This is 1990. He's been in Italy for, as we know, because when we covered the Maradona Napoli team, he's been in Italy for a number of seasons, and he's just gone on and won his second Scudetto with Napoli. So, and the way the tournament is structured as well, because in 1990, it wasn't that the schedule was already predetermined and it was just the luck of the draw. In this particular World Cup, the FIFA and the Italian authorities designed the tournament to keep Italy in Rome, to stick England out in Sardinia, so the troublesome people were on an island. But for Argentina, they assumed that Argentina, as defending champions, as they were they win in the World Cup in 1986, going into 1990, would win the group and then would play all of their games through to the final, which they make in Naples, Napoli, the home of where Maradona is. So it's all set up for Maradona to go to his home ground, to be the hero in Napoli, but the villain in Italy, which he does become as well as the latter stages progress. But I think to set some context, two things really. Firstly, this is an era where, this is why we love the World Cup and why we love the World Cup in the early days, because Cameroon are a bit of non-entity. 11 of their players are playing in Cameroon, which is almost a non-professional league. It's not a fully fledgling professional league. So you're talking about half the team in the squad are amateurs, and then you've got 10 of them playing in Europe's leagues, mainly in France. But the big goalkeeper Thomas Incono is playing for Espanyol in Spain, and then you got our man Roger Milla out in the sun. In the ocean, playing his retirement football. And Argentina going into this tournament, albeit they're the defending champions, they've had a dreadful run of form. They've only won one game in 10 in the lead up to the opening game against Cameroon, and that was against a friendly against Israel. So Argentina's form isn't great going into this particular game. So while the odds are stacked for Cameroon not to win this, it's not massively out of their reach. And just to give you the context, Argentina at the time are ranked. This predates boring stuff. It predates FIFA rankings. FIFA rankings didn't start till December 1992. But there's this thing, and I've mentioned it before in these things, the ELO, not to be confused with the Electric Light Orchestra. There's no Mr. Blue Sky in this one. They have recorded rankings, and they've gone back through the archives and given a ranking since football began, which is fantastic. Argentina in the ELO rankings are 21st. Cameroon are 45th. So there's not a massive disparity between the two. In fact, Argentina are the lowest ranked team that Cameroon will face in the 1990 World Cup based on ELO Mr. Blue Sky rankings.
That's an extraordinary fact. That really is. I love that. There's also an element to which actually holders losing their first games in a World Cup is not that unusual.
No, it is very much Tom Jones. It seems to happen all the time. I think it's the last 6 World Cups up until this one. The holders have gone into the game as the opening game showpiece and have failed to win. I know that Italy in 86 drew, I think, with Bulgaria off the top of my head. I think Argentina lost in 82. I think West Germany lost in drew in 78. This is all off the top of my head. And then in 74, Brazil, I think, either lost or drew. They may have got dicked by the Dutch. England lost to Brazil in 1970. I think Brazil lost in 66 or drew. This is all off the top of my head. I haven't even prepared for this, but I think it's something ridiculous.
It is crazy. So Argentina lose to Belgium in 82 and they lose to Cameroon in 90. I mean, it's quite an impressive record. France, of course, lose to Senegal in 2000 and 2002. Spain lose to the Dutch, don't they, in their first game?
5-1. 5-1 in 2014. Absolutely incredible. But not the most incredible result of that World Cup. And we'll come back to that later.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Germany lose to Sweden in 2018 as well. So it does seem to happen a surprising amount of time. That said, Cameroon do develop a tactic to ensure, what they have decided is Argentina are pretty decent and Maradona is pretty central to this, and that they're going to stop Maradona one way or the other. It's rudimentary at times, isn't it?
Yeah, I think in this game, Maradona is fouled over 20 times, and I think 12 times by the same player, Andre Biek, who we can talk about because he plays a significant role in this game as well in terms of his contribution. But I think he alone fouls Maradona 12 times. It's incredible. But it all makes sense. I mean, if you can do it within the boundaries of the laws of the game, which you can argue Cameroon don't, by virtue that they don't even finish the game with 10 players, which is incredible, then why wouldn't you try to put the enforcer? Is that what they call it? Some people call it get the best player on the pitch. But I mean, this is bread and butter to Maradona. Maradona's played his whole football career being kicked. It's just his game for being the greatest player that ever lived.
Yeah, and actually, it's difficult without rewatching the entire game again. But just from seeing some of the highlights of when he's chopped down, it's just business as usual for him. It happens so much to him that he doesn't even appear particularly riled or perturbed. There's one tackle which is extraordinarily high.
Yeah, that's from our man Andre Biek, whose brother is the forward Francis Oman Biek, who's playing up front, a fantastic number 9. Yeah, so Andre Biek, who actually does get sent off in this game, and he gets sent off in this game when it's still 0-0 after a series of horrible fouls, and then just to kind of really turn the foul engine up, Argentina bring Canilla on in the second half. He's an incredible player with his lovely blonde locks, running the that gives them another proposition because they now have to divide their attention between Maradona and Canilla, which they do. So Biek, the older Biek, the defender Biek, gets sent off. So you're going to love this. You're going to love this stat so much. If you haven't already got it. So he's obviously he gets sent off at 0-0. So he gets banned. The rule in the FIFA, if you receive a straight red card, which he did, you're then banned for the next game. So he misses the game against Romania. He then comes back for the third group game to play against the Soviet Union, and he gets a yellow card. As we progress, Cameroon do go through the group. It's no big shock or surprises there. We'll cover the Romanian Soviet Union games and the Argentinian game as well. So Biek gets a yellow card against Colombia. And the FIFA ruling was if you get 2 yellow cards, you get a suspension. So Andre Biek cannot play against England. He is the only footballer in the men's game to receive 2 suspensions in the same World Cup.
Wow.
Never has it happened before, and it hasn't even happened again.
That is spectacularly impressive. And I like the sort of economy of how he's achieved it in just 4 games. I mean, that's you could sort of see. I mean, that record sadly could very easily be beaten in this next tournament. You could see someone picking up a couple of yellow cards, missing 1 game, then getting through to the quarters and then the semi-final. You could definitely see that. But this is impressive because almost by definition, once you've been sent off in 1 game, your chances of as a team qualifying are automatically, they should be quite low. If you're playing with 1 less man, then you add in. I think within the idea of getting a suspension from 3 games, which would be 1 sending off, 1 win, 1 miss, another sending off, and somehow still qualifying. That's just not going to happen. This is the next best you can achieve. So it is highly impressive. What's entertaining about that sending off actually is that it's definitely reached the stage where the ref is like, oh my God, I just have to do something now. I have to stop this because it's by far not the worst tackle of any kind. I mean, it looks, to me, it looks yellow card probably, but not particularly harsh. I mean, they can't really have any complaints given what he's let go through before, but yeah, straight red for, the ref has obviously decided, okay, this is enough.
It is, Mikel Vitrel, the French referee. He's the one that issues the red card. And you're right, it's almost, and from watching that documentary and also reading about this game, Argentina it seems that they felt more incensed that the red card was given for that tackle. It was almost like, well, that's not fair because there have been far worse tackles. I mean, there's a karate kick into Maradona's chest. It's incredible how the referee allowed such tackles to go. And then I think you're right. I think he's just had enough. And he's like, I've got to do something about this. But yeah, it seemed to incense the Argentinian players more than the Cameroon players. But
what's interesting in that game is, in the first half, there's a lot of Argentina pressure, although they're not. It's not really backs to the wall stuff for Cameroon. You can see Argentina aren't really clicking and aren't really ticking at that point, and then they go down to 10 men, and then within 5 minutes or so, they somehow take the lead.
Yeah, a couple of key things happen, really. So obviously, Biek's been sent off, and then the coach makes the change, and we see Roger Milla get introduced into the game. Now, he doesn't do anything spectacular in this particular game, but it's noteworthy in terms of what he does. He will come on and play up top with Biek's younger brother, Francis Oman Biek, and that gives Biek, I think, a bit of space because Miller's just a very direct player. In fact, Cameroon are quite a direct team, not a direct team in terms of playing high balls. They're just direct in terms of how they attack. And, statistically, they are better than Argentina in this game, even though they're reduced to 10 men for the last half an hour. If you want to talk about XG, who really wants to talk about it? Cameroon had 0.8, Argentina had 0.3. I mean, Cameroon have reduced Argentina in this whole game just to 2 shots on target. And then we get what I think one of my personal favourite moments of any World Cup, the opening goal of the 1990 tournament.
It is a special piece of goalkeeping, and I mean, it's fair to say that special goalkeeping does sort of run. It's a theme throughout this tournament. So the cross comes in. It's not. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a Joe Jordan style bullet header.
No, but I mean, Biek does get up really well. I mean, he's a strong physical player, and he rises in the air incredibly well, and he seems to get some direction of heading the ball down from what almost looks like a flat start.
Yes.
And the ball is almost coming directly down on him. So to generate any power is going to be really tricky. But yeah, he's definitely helped by the goalkeeper Pompidou, who has a bit of he's a bit of a nightmare, doesn't he? Bless him. He's definitely got a bit of Vaseline on his gloves.
Yes, it's very, very gently pours it. It's a very poor effort. Creeps in, and Cameroon have somehow gone ahead. As you say, at that stage, actually, in terms of the game, it isn't that much against. It's not against the run of play. The against the run of playness is that it's 10v11, and you add in Cameroon or underdogs. It's a glorious, glorious moment, and I think, and we'll go on to talk about celebrations in this game. But there's absolutely no question. I struggle to think of a team that has enjoyed and celebrated their goals as wondrously in a tournament as this Cameroon side. And the celebration for the first goal is, the goal against Argentina is glorious as well. There aren't brilliant dance moves, but the enthusiasm for it and the delight in achieving it is incredible.
Yeah, but what there's a roly-poly over the group of players that have all clustered and turned themselves into a mini hill. And I don't know the player, but one of the Cameroon players actually does a roly-poly, and it's not even graceful. He doesn't style it, but it's just fantastic in terms of the celebration. And I think it was shared as well. Probably not in Argentina, but I think it was shared, and it really got the tournament off to an incredible start. Obviously, Cameroon still need to hold out, and then they decide to make the game even more challenging for themselves when probably one of the greatest red cards I've seen.
I think it is. It's you can make your own third time lucky or third time asking or whatever. Third time's three's a charm, whatever it is. It's a brilliant run. It's a fabulous run. Kenichi never fully has it under control, does he?
He doesn't, and that's the thing. I mean, he's so fast, Claudio Caniggia. He's so fast and so direct and so skillful that he's almost going faster than the ball, and then he can't keep up on. And he has to ride a couple of really close tackles, and he takes the ball from the edge of his own penalty box, and he's direct. He rides a tackle and he skips through that, and he does it brilliantly. Then he's a little bit off balance, and then he rides another tackle, and that sets him off a little bit more. Then he's almost scrambling after the ball with his hands on the floor. And I can't help but think that Benjamin Massin has gone to his two teammates. Don't worry, guys. I've got this.
It's definitely hold my pint time.
It's bam. I mean, how Caniggia didn't end up in Rose is just incredible.
It's difficult to imagine, because he's going so fast. Messi comes in almost as fast, absolutely smacks him. I think it's difficult to imagine a clearer red card ever. Really, it is extraordinary. And so Cameroon are down to nine men against the holders. But again, it's not a massive last gasp scramble. It's not. They kind of hold their own, and what becomes interesting is actually, even with 9 men, they have 2 tremendous chances to actually go and secure the win and get that second. And there's some unbelievable hold up play from Roger Milla, who is sort of very not cruelly deprived, but has a great opportunity of having gloriously set up a chance for his teammate who. Is not. It's quite reasonable to have a go, but if he just put it inside, I think that had the potential to be one of the great goals. But that theme of even with 9 men still going for it, still flooding forward, is what makes this Cameroon side everyone's favourite team, but probably ultimately is their undoing when it gets to the final game. Or their last game in this tournament.
Yeah, you're right. I think they just get adopted literally as everyone's favourite team. I think it's because of the style of the play, the unexpected nature of them, and the great unknown of the World Cup, that great unknown that we have been able to experience in World Cups. That we don't have that anymore because football is televised everywhere.
Yeah.
There are no secrets anymore. It's really hard to stumble across players that you wouldn't have heard or seen previously before World Cup. back in 1990, the joy of the World Cup was just discovering things that you never knew about and being totally thrilled by them. And that's what Cameroon did. So much so, I think even in the World Cup in 1994, they were like absolutely thousands, tens of thousands of American fans that had turned out for Cameroon because the legacy of the team from 1990 had carried into that World Cup. Sadly, they didn't get the same show. It was a much more colder showing for that particular Cameroon team. But it's incredible how this team had such an effect on so many across the whole of the world on the biggest showcase, which is the World Cup of football.
Yeah, absolutely, and you're absolutely right. And there's definitely something about putting one over the holders. That just immediately brings them to the top of everyone's favourite list. Now, what's so impressive about this side that having done that and having the high of that is that actually they go and win the second game as well, and and that is against a Romania side who. Romania in 1990, Georgie Hagi, you've got Radicaua, Dumitrescu. It's a decent side, isn't it?
It's a brilliant team. It really is a brilliant team. I mean, this is a Romanian team, most of it, that will go on and make the quarterfinals of the next World Cup in 4 years' time. They're ranked 12 in the world. So they're a step up from Argentina in terms of current form. And the game is really close. So up until the 55th minute, but Romania have definitely been the better in terms of creating goal opportunities. But there is a key moment that happens, two key moments actually. The incredible Georgie Hagi, the Maradona of Romania, has to be replaced. He's injured, and he comes off injured.
The Carpathian Maradona, I think they called him. I think,
yeah.
The Carpathian Maradona. True. And it's fair to say that Cameroon share some of the Maradona treatment for Georgie Hagi as well.
Yeah, they do. The same tactic. They enforce the same tactic that they've done on Maradona. And again, why wouldn't you do it? Georgie Hagi is a fantastic player. He's Romania's best player. He's their playmaker, their number 10. So you're absolutely going to dish out the same level of treatment that you did on Maradona to try to stop their key playmaker. This is football tactics. And just going back to your Colombia reference about the bag of Skittles, I mean, this is also a beautiful colour combination of green and orange. But what happens shortly after Hagi goes off in the 55th minute injured, and then a few moments later, Roger Milla comes on and changes the whole shape of the game. He really does play the super sub card exceptionally well.
It's all kind of sets up from it. This is a tight game. They're not in, unlike the Argentina game where you could argue right from the start that Argentina weren't at the races really for that, and it took them a long time to get into that tournament. This Romania side were playing well. Cameroon were hanging on a little bit until Miller comes on, and it does suddenly, his arrival just changes the tempo of the game. And it's interesting, the temptation obviously to bring him on and to start him must be huge once, and even more so after this game. Maybe less so after the Argentina game. He hasn't necessarily achieved that much, but they are using him in a really specific way, knowing how to get the best out of a player who is let's not forget 38.
He is 38, and his experience is incredible. He's a super fit 38-year-old, and still incredibly fast and dynamic and technically brilliant as well. So what Miller does is that he plays incredibly direct, and he loves to take a dribble as well. So he's creating spaces by just dribbling the ball and creating areas of space for his opponent. So he's not just comes on and becomes this incredible goal scoring machine in the latter stages of the World Cup. He's also creating chances for his team as well. And then in this particular game, he gets his very first World Cup goal, and he puts Cameroon 1-0 up against Romania.
And he sets in motion, literally in motion, something of this is an iconic and a pioneering moment in football, because this is the first time that we see Roger Milla's move.
Yeah, the Roger Milla dance. I think it was spontaneous. I don't think he planned it. But yeah, when he scores, he just kind of runs over to the corner flag, and then he's got that wonderful hand at his waist, hand above his head, Roger Milla jig. And it is fantastic. And it just adds to the glamour of this exciting football team. Not only have they stunned the world by beating the holders in the first game, we now get the oldest goal scorer in World Cup history doing a dance at the corner flag. And do you know what, Graham? Before Roger Milla did his dance at the corner flag, I don't know if goal celebrating the way that Roger Milla did has happened in football before. I can't recall celebrations of that nature. Now, he's definitely responsible for all of the crap that's followed since, but I think he might be the first person in the televised history of the game to celebrate a goal in the way that he did.
Yes, it's a really interesting one, and I think both of us have attempted to research this, because I'm absolutely sure that there are players in the 1930s or various levels of football along the way who had a semi-trademark celebration, but it is very, very difficult to think of anyone other than the guy we mentioned a couple of weeks ago on this podcast, Mr. Michael Shannon, who had a trademark goal celebration. And what's even more extraordinary, it's extraordinary to think that in 1990, Roger Milla was the first player to celebrate in this way and almost to do a trademark celebration. It's even more extraordinary to think that Mike Shannon was the previous pioneer of this. But I'm genuinely struggling to think of a player. When you look back at Bobby Charlton, it was just like a handshake and walk back to the centre circle.
Yeah, that's pretty much what goal celebrating was. There didn't seem to be much of a palaver in terms of having some kind of planned routine or doing something eccentric. But there's a big difference between. I got to get used to liking Mike Shannon's windmill. Big difference between pulling your sleeve down in cross with your hand and then freewheeling a windmill arm running away to a man who's got natural rhythm and dancing a wonderful jig of joy at a corner flag. I firmly believe that Roger Milla is absolutely responsible for the Lee Sharp shuffle. That Elvis Presley shuffle that he used to give in the corner flag. He's got that from Roger Milla. He definitely has.
Yes. Yeah, he has a lot to answer for in that respect. Lee Sharp obviously attempts to take that on, and it's difficult to explain, especially to a Man United fan, why when Roger Milla does it, it's absolutely right, and when Lee Sharp does it, it is horrific. There's this smugness to Lee Sharp doing it, which is just unacceptable. Whereas when Roger Milla does it, this is a thing of glory.
Yeah, it can go one worse than that as well, because we know with the brilliant South Coast Jamie, who's told us that he imitated the Mick Shannon goal celebration in the playground. I am guilty of trying to imitate the Lee Sharp shuffle goal celebration when I was playing in local Sunday League football. Twat doesn't even come close. But you're right. What Milla has done, he actually has started this, what we now know is almost a brand. A goal-scoring celebration has become part of the identity of the players. Cristiano Ronaldo, probably the most famous, with his jumping backwards which I think is awful. Personally, I just don't like it, and I don't like seeing it imitated. But I get it because it is part of his identity. It's part of brand CR7. Kylian Mbappe with the hands folded underneath his armpits. Peter Crouch, the robot. You should get banned for these things. You should get at least a 2-match ban for doing a robot. The only one I think we could tolerate, really, going back in time, is the Klinsmann dive, because the humour in it was fantastic.
Yes.
Other than that, I think I think the branding style of goal celebration kind of don't really go along with, but the spontaneous stuff, like the Paul Gascoigne celebration in Euro '96 with the dentist chair. Obviously, it was planned but it was a one-off in terms of the celebration, and that was just delightful. Unlike the Emmanuel Adebayor celebration when he's Manchester City against Arsenal, when he ran the length of the pitch to celebrate in front of the Arsenal fans. Now that's just terrible. That celebration shouldn't be allowed, and he was rightly banned for a couple of matches after inciting the crowd.
Yeah, yes, that one was definitely something. I mean, you're right. It's difficult to get the balance right between it being, this is all about me, which is quite reasonable if you scored up to a point, and that this is about the team. So when does it become showing off? When does it become grandstanding? So I quite like Robbie Keane's. I mean, Robbie Keane's was like really over the top. The kind of the flip and I think it was a bow and arrow or something at the end of it. It's kind of, the flips, the bits and pieces. That's probably too much, really. Roger Milla definitely is responsible for some corner flag activity as well. That's the other thing. Tim Cahill, obviously, he took it on with the the punching of the corner flag, which I quite like. And corner flag activity, I think that that feels quite spontaneous. I sort of quite like it. What's obviously quite interesting is that Miller obviously scores twice in that game, and as you say, I think that first goal, that first celebration, is pretty spontaneous, and that might have got lost in the annals of history, not least because in one of the footages of the goal, a photographer gets up and stands up in front of it and spoils half the view of it. But fortunately, obviously Roger Milla scores, 15 minutes later, and there's only one thing I'm going to do. I'm going to do it again. It's too good, and repeats the goal celebration. And from this moment on, it is set.
Yeah, and the second goal against Romania is fantastic. It really is, because it opens up and it just really highlights how brilliant this Cameroon team is in terms of how they move the ball. There's some wonderful interplay. And then Miller, from an angle, absolutely rifles it. And it's a fantastic goal. Romania pull one back to make it 2-1. But Cameroon have won both football matches in their opening two. And they have now qualified, no matter what happens, against the Soviet Union in the next game. The Soviet Union, who can still qualify with Cameroon, managed by a Soviet Union. I mean, skeptics will start talking.
It's definitely true that Cameroon probably don't have the same intensity or same desire in that, which is to be expected. And I think there's some in the documentary. I think that's the point they start talking about the players spending more time shopping than anything else at that stage. And so Cameroon lose that game 4-0. I think they rest one or two players as well as part of it. But it doesn't really matter. As you say, we see this Cameroon side get through, as you rightly pointed out. Actually, Morocco, I had forgotten Morocco got through in the 86. But so they make it through. It's still, extraordinarily unusual. And actually, it's worth saying this Soviet Union side is a decent side as well. They're presumably under the ELO rankings a top 20 side.
The Soviet Union are actually ranked 7. So again, the Cameroon team are playing high quality opposition. Argentina 21, but it's Argentina, Romania 12, and USR 7 in the group stage. So it's a tough group. It's a real tough group.
Winning that group, which is quite extraordinary, and Argentina presumably get out of that group because they get to the final, so they must get out of that group. So they must finish. So they finished second in that group?
No, they finished third in the group, and it was one of those World Cups where you had 6 groups, and the 4 best third place teams would qualify for the next stage of the World Cup, because it was 24 teams in the World Cup. It was the third time that particular format had been used. So Argentina qualify with a win and a draw and obviously a loss. They finished level with Romania on points, but they are moved into third place on goal difference. And for Argentina, the journey is really incredible because they go on and have to play Brazil in the knockout stages. So they've already upped the ante by finishing third in terms of their opponent. Whereby Cameroon winning the group, they go to Naples and they play a brilliant Colombia team.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is in many ways unusual that Cameroon don't play Brazil. Cameroon appear to play Brazil at World Cups more than any other team for some reason. But you're right, they do go on and play Colombia, and there's a theme here, and the theme isn't just spectacular kits playing off against each other. You're absolutely right. I think actually, in hindsight, Romania's kit is marginally a better Technicolor event playing against Cameroon.
But they've got the red socks. They've
got the red socks as well. So there's a nice match with the red shorts of Cameroon. So it's nicely set up for that. But Colombia, I think, feels more Technicolor, probably because of the hair. And obviously, when we're talking hair, we're talking about the hair of Valderrama, and we're talking the hair of Higuita, the keeper, both of whom are larger than life figures. And it is extraordinary, isn't it, that these three of the four teams that they play, who they get the results, all have these absolute stars of the game at that time, real personalities. And Valderrama obviously becomes another player that they have to stop from playing.
Yeah, it's incredible. I hadn't really thought about it that way until you just mentioned it. Yeah, they're playing against three of probably the best number 10s, not just at this World Cup, but three of the top probably 10, 20 top 10s that have ever played the game. Maradona number one, Haji's in there, and Carlos Valderrama. What a fantastic footballer he was, controlling the games. But I guess it kind of makes their tactics a little easier. They've got someone to focus on in terms of applying their physicality in the game. And they were physical, Cameroon. They're a brilliant team in terms of playing football. They can do some lovely interchange football, and they do play that style, but they're also incredibly strong and very physical.
And I think it is also worth just so this, which is around a 16 game, it's played in Naples, as you say. It's where Argentina were meant to be playing, and it is played in front of 50,000 fans. Now, the Cameroon players will not have been, they won't have experienced anything like this, will they? The kind of size of games, size of crowds they're playing in.
They have been successful in the African Cup of Nations. I think in 1988 they were the champions. So they used to play in big football matches on their home continent. But on the world stage, it's another level. And this is something that's very new and fresh. But I just think there's a growing belief in this team. And we know there's a growing belief based on the documentary. I think they're starting to believe that they actually can hold their own against the world's best. And they've got every reason to think that. They've topped a group with Argentina, Romania, and now they're going toe-to-toe with a brilliant Colombia team. But they've got every reason to believe that they can still compete. And again, it's our super sub, Roger Milla, who comes on in the second half. The goal is goalless. The game is goalless, after 90 minutes. So we do have to go into added time. But in added time, once again, we get to see this incredible dance of Jigger Joy. Jigger Joy, is that David Pleat?
David Pleat, Jigger Joy, yeah. Now, there's a celebration we need to see. And maybe that's the first celebration.
We've just answered the question. It was. David Pleat is responsible. Roger Milla must have been watching Luton Town in the mid-1980s.
Who moves better, David Pleat or Roger Milla?
Oh, well, that's a great question. I know which one moves better, but which one makes me laugh most?
Definitely true. Yes, you're right. This one goes to extra time. Again, they are, they're sticking with Roger Milla as a super sub. They are maintaining the policy of bringing him on, which must be, again, it's sticking to a plan. And I think you have seen in quite a few of these games, actually, Cameroon sort of getting stronger as the games go on. I think you see them starting to take more chances. There is a kind of I suppose this has always been the kind of thought, and we'll come on to this when we get to the England game. I suppose one of the reasons that I think football fans largely fall in love with African teams at World Cups historically has been the sort of flair stroke naivety. Would you call it naivety? I don't know, but this kind of going after the game rather than necessarily trying to kill a game off. Now, that isn't to say, I mean, I remember that Morocco side in 1986, and I don't remember it being glorious football by any means. So it's not that they're not prepared to grind it out, not that African sides haven't been involved in some pretty dire matches over the time. But there are some sides who just appear to play with a kind of enthusiasm, which has maybe kind of not been schooled out of them by years and years of playing in the Italian leagues.
Africa is almost like the forgotten continent on so many levels. It's how Africa is treated by the wider world is questionable, and FIFA are guilty of crimes against Africa in terms of offering African teams places at the World Cup finals. The first African team to play was Egypt in 1934. That was when the World Cup was quite a fledgling tournament and football was still really finding itself in the world. And then we don't get another African team at a World Cup until 1970, when Africa finally have a dedicated place at the World Cup. It's 1970 is the first time that they're actually given a space, while Europe and South America have been hogging the limelight this whole time. So, yeah, I think naivety is fair because Africa has never really been given a chance. It's always had to kind of fight for its place at the dinner table, and it's playing catch up. And I think when, Pele made that incredible prediction in the 1980s, or I think it was, that an African team will win the World Cup, I think is true. I think that will happen. I think we're getting closer and closer. We saw Morocco light up the last World Cup in 2022. And I think as the football world compresses and get tighter and tighter, we will see a champion of the World Cup from the continent in Africa in our lifetimes, Graham, I think.
Yeah, absolutely so. And, actually, when you fast forward to Cameroon, you have started to see more and more Cameroon players, for example, lit up the European leagues. So, things.
Apart from Jemba, he didn't really light things up.
Yeah, I think so. In this game, it does go to extra time, and Roger Milla is the one who breaks the stalemate. Gets the first goal. The second goal. Now, this has obviously been coming, and I think I had watched this Colombia side at play in England ahead of this tournament. I think it was, and Higuita in goal, and his his style of playing, which was ahead of his game in some ways, but he was always going to get caught out somewhere with his desire to play on the ball many yards outside his box.
Yeah, he's a creative goalkeeper and he's brilliant, but he's a risk taker and he fancies himself as a bit of an outfield player as well. And generally, by and large, it works for him. He's an exciting goalkeeper to watch, but he does get caught out. Do you know, my memory of this, when Higuita obviously gets in trouble, and it's a beautiful goal to watch. It's an absolute goalkeeping error, but I mean, the whole game is riddled with goalkeeper errors. They happen all the time. But it's quite beautiful to watch the kind of the whole disaster of it. But it's bizarre. My memory of this game is that I watched this at home at my parents' house. I was living at home with my parents at the time, 18 years old. And my mum and dad had a massive row that day. And my dad and I were watching the World Cup game downstairs between Cameroon and Colombia. And my mum had gone upstairs to watch the game on TV. And Roger Milla's second goal unified our family because when Roger Milla scores that second goal after Higuita's mistake, and this is the effect Cameroon was having on people. I remember my mum yelling, screaming with joy that Cameroon had gone 2-0 up. And suddenly everything was happy in the house. So Cameroon were bringing unity to the Rooney's house. I think they were bringing unity to Cameroon as well at the time as well.
Yeah,
much
absolutely.
It is. Yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic goal, Graham, isn't it?
Yeah, Yeah, and the same thing happens. The Colombia do pull one back, but it is not enough. And unbelievably, Cameroon have made it to the quarterfinals, the first African side to get there. And it is. You've got a striker who scored 4 goals. He's already, he must be close to leading Golden Boot at that stage. So he is. You've got an informed striker. You've got a team that is that consistently is able to attack and score goals. It has proven that, and seems able to withstand it. So, I still don't think anyone actually believes that Cameroon will win the World Cup. But it isn't ludicrous at this stage. They, they must have, a genuine shout. Of course, they ended up playing Bobby Robson's England. We are going to do the 1990 England World Cup side, so we won't dwell too much on this period. But this England side has sort of scraped home in a pretty horrendous game against Belgium, but a moment of glory from David Platt in the previous round. And there is some level of confidence in this England side. They obviously have a free scoring Gary Lineker in this time. They obviously have Paul Gascoigne. And I certainly think, as both of us as England fans, we probably go in there expecting to win this game. I think this is quite an unusual experience as an England fan. Slightly different now. For this, over the last 10 years or so, England have gone into quarterfinals expecting to win. But this is probably one of the few times in recent eras where, in that kind of frame, where we get into the quarterfinal and actually expect to win.
Yeah, England are ranked 5 in the world. So this is Cameroon's hardest opponent so far. So England, based on rankings, are expected to reach the quarterfinals, worst case scenario, and are on the edges of the semi-final. But I think you're right. I think as an England fan, and I think I was probably confident at the time because of my naivety of what Cameroon was. But when you reflect on who Cameroon have been through this tournament, you realise that they are one of the strongest teams in that tournament. And I mean, it just kind of sums up attitudes. Howard Wilkinson, a quote from Howard Wilkinson, the Leeds manager, and it's a quote, so I'm quoting it. He was out watching England and assessing the World Cup at that particular moment. So he's watching games. He's watching Cameroon beat Argentina. He's watching Cameroon beat Romania. He's watching Cameroon beat Colombia with these incredible players. He was quoted saying that England playing Cameroon in the quarterfinals of the World Cup is practically a bye into the semi-final. It just feels wrong. Everything about it just feels arrogant, like you really haven't read the room. And I think I was probably guilty of that at the time as well, potentially. But I didn't have the wealth of experience as a football coach as Howard Wilkinson.
Yeah, and it's definitely true. I do suspect England probably whether consciously or not, were fully up for it. I suspect they had were probably guilty of thinking of the next round ahead. My memory of that game was that Cameroon were the better side, and having looked at the chances that they had and that they created, nothing dissuades me from that. In fact, I think Cameroon were by a long way the better side. They were unlucky to go a goal down. David Platt's scoring run begins or continues at that point, and so they have to sort of try and come back from that goal down. But actually, when they do score, equalise, and go on to take the lead, it isn't against the run of play.
No, and it's against the run of play when they go 1-0 down as well. So David Platt scores a header in the first half after incredible pressure from Cameroon, an incredible play. Really have England on the ropes. Possession wise at half time, Cameroon have 61% to England's 39%. So Cameroon are dominating the ball. Overall, they would go on and have 22 shots versus England's 13 in that particular game, 7 on target versus England's 4 on target. So, yeah, I agree with you, Graham. I think on reflection now, they were definitely the better team. And I think if when they're 2-1 up, deservedly 2-1 up in the 79th minute, if Oman Biek would have been able to just move the ball left or right of Shilton and roll it into the net, it's 3-1 and Africa has its first ever World Cup semi-finalist. I think that really is a critical point. I think the penalty that England get late on is a penalty. I don't think there's any doubt in that. Maybe in the line of great number 10s, they've now started to target Lineker. As great as he was no Maradona, Hadji, or Valderrama, but a great player nevertheless.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think you can complain too much about either of the England penalties. In fact, the first one, he's probably going down a bit early, but it's quite a loose challenge. No,
but I think just going back to the goals again, and I think it's the 2 Cameroon goals. Again, it's all down to Roger Milla coming on. So at 1-0, Miller comes on and again changes the whole nature of the game. Cameroon get 2 quick goals and Miller is involved in all. He wins a penalty for the first one and he has a wonderful interchange to set up the second one. So his effect is incredible. And just to give you this, Cameroon scores 7 goals in this World Cup in total. All of them are scored in the second half. And Roger Milla never starts a game. He comes on in the second half of every game. I mean, the impact of this guy as a super sub is up there with the greatest subs of all time. I think I can probably only think of one in a biased way, which is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as being better. You're going to say David Fairclough.
David Fairclough is the traditional super sub. Solskjaer is definitely... He's a very modern day player who was happy with the role, which actually you don't see very many players kind of accept that. So there's that. So Solskjaer had his moments, I guess. I'll let you have that. Whilst we're deprived with Roger Milla not scoring and we're deprived of the dance, the celebration for the second goal is another truly joyful moment. And there's one of the players unbelievably sort of leaps onto the shoulders of the goal scorer. It's just, I don't know how he does it. It's an unbelievable feat of athleticism. It's an absolute beauty. Obviously, Cameroon's first goal was the penalty. England win two penalties in that game. I have to, if us talking through it tempts you to go and watch that game again or the highlights of it, definitely do, because the referee signalling penalties is really quite spectacular, isn't it? There's this, he gives them and then sort of points, and there's just this kind of it's very, very, there's a lot of showmanship there, but I think
I suspect our man from Mexico was a ballet dancer in his younger days.
So it is unfortunate. It feels like it's probably a bridge too far for Cameroon. This game obviously goes into extra time again, so you're looking at back-to-back extra time games for either club. I'm not even sure whether. So in the Cameroon League, would those players be professional or?
I mean, so half the squad are in Cameroon. I think it's more of an amateur league, or it's kind of turning into a professional league. But they're not. It's not professional in the sense as what we have at that particular moment in Europe. So half the players are playing in Europe, mostly in France. But yeah, I mean, again, it's a team of part-time players in the squad, and I think it's just testament to the strength of the team and the coach. We shouldn't really forget, what Nyachi has done in order to galvanise this particular team. And it's strange, you just get coaches that can just come in for these one-off tournaments and they're able just to get the best out of the bunch. It's almost like they can see the things clearly that others may not be able to see so clearly, and they just know how to manage the team. The Roger Milla substitutions is just genius. The physicality of neutralizing the best playmaker on the opponent. It's just great football tactics. plus interchanging with some fantastic football as well.
It is quite something. They are spectacular to watch. That is the end of their run. It's a glorious effort. They quarterfinalists. Did Morocco get to the semi-final? Did they get to the semi-finals?
Yeah, so we had to wait right till the last World Cup 2022 when Morocco did finally get an African team in the last four, and they narrowly lost out to France in the semi-final of the latest edition. And we know that Ghana got to the quarterfinals in 2010, and another massive shock in 2002. You already mentioned it. Senegal got to the quarterfinals, but that was it. So Senegal, Ghana, and now Morocco are the only other teams that have gone as far as this Cameroon team did in 1990. Just going back to the Argentinian game, I mean, it is a massive shock on the surface, but when you look at the form going into the two teams, it's not a huge shock on that balance. I think there are bigger World Cup shocks that have happened in the tournament. Although Cameroon beating Argentina will always be cited as a massive shock, but on the surface of the form going into that particular game, they were closer than what history suggests they should be.
So what would be a bigger shock? France Senegal definitely felt like a big shock at the time to me.
I think so. I think we've covered one game, Spain, Northern Ireland, 1982. Yeah. I think that would definitely go down as a bigger shock. Northern Ireland beating the home nation. I think possibly the United States beating England in 1950 was one of the greatest shocks. But the biggest and best my favourite shock is...
Are we going to Essen Park?
Oh, no. So the North Koreans beating Italy. Fantastic recall, yeah. 1-0. I mean, that is a massive shock. But my favourite one is from the 2014 edition. And outscoring the Netherlands beating Spain 5-1 was the World Cup semi-final when Brazil were at home and lost 7-1 to Germany. I don't think it gets bigger than that.
There is definitely a case for that. That has to be the most outlandish game and result ever. I mean, it's difficult to imagine. And Brazil are quite a big side, aren't they? So it does have that kind of... Germany aren't really underdogs, but 7-1. That is just incredible. That was where were you and JFK got shot kind of moment. I think everyone remembers those goals. Hang on a minute. I think they're 4. I think it's 4 now. Absolutely incredible game.
It's 5-0 at half time. It was fantastic. So I think Cameroon beating Argentina is a World Cup shock. I don't think it's. I don't even think it's in the top 5, based on the fact that Cameroon were nowhere near as poor as their previous history suggests they could have been, and Argentina weren't as glorious as their previous history had showcased them as.
So Cameroon go out. They do go on to become World Cup regulars after this, but they never really. They haven't since ever quite been able to capture those heights again, have they?
Well, they've only ever won 2 games. Since 1990, they've won 2 World Cup football matches. And one of them was beating Brazil in the last edition in a game where they were already out of the tournament. So, no, they've never really achieved anywhere near the greatness of what they did in 1990. They haven't even come close. I think in every edition since, I think there's probably 6 World Cups. They're gloriously dumped out the group stage without even looking like they're going to qualify into the round of 16.
Roger Milla, though, does add to his legacy, as we mentioned. I mean, I don't know what he was doing in those 4 years in between time, but obviously he returns aged 42. And it's not quite such a glorious goal, is it? It's something with consolation, but he does score at the 1994 World Cup.
Yeah, and I think from memory he does his dance as well. I'm pretty sure he scores that consolation against Russia and still pleases the crowd by giving his little jig in the corner flag, the Roger Milla dance. Fantastic. One of the most exciting players, I think, to play in the World Cup.
I think so. So we should get to ranking this Cameroon side. As a reminder, we have 5 categories of greatness. All-time greats at the top, true greats, our second tier category. Touch of greatness in the middle, edge of greatness, blinkered greats. Or not necessarily great, but without them we wouldn't be where we are today for our trailblazers. I think Cameroon quite counters that. This is a brutal one, actually. Where are you going to go, Jamie?
Yeah, where am I going to go? It's good. I think there's definitely an argument that this is an edge of greatness because they really are on the edge of history. I mean, they create history. They're the first African team to get to the quarterfinals, but they're within a Peter Shilton save of going to a semi-final, which is, and it's interesting listening back to, I don't know how true this is, but Franz Beckenbauer, the West German manager at the time, had suggested prior to the Cameroon-England game, and West Germany already in the semi-final, saying that we'd rather play England than Cameroon because we fancied our chances better. So I think, they could have gone on. They could have then given the rough treatment to Lothar Matthäus and dumped West Germany at the World Cup, and then they could have gone round 2 with Argentina in the final, and maybe made it a more interesting final than the one that actually ended up being, which was absolutely awful. So there's definitely an argument for it's an edge of greatness, but I think I'm going to kick us off by moving it up a bracket into tier 3, a touch of greatness, because everything that predates it. An African team had never got this far in the World Cup before. Cameroon had never even shown that they could be a team that could compete in the last day. So I think I'm going to start us off by putting Cameroon in tier 3, touch of greatness.
I know why you want to go there. It's tough, isn't it? Tough to get there. There are obviously great moments. There are great moments in this team, right down to the greatest sending off of a World Cup. I think Massing's sending off is just a thing of beauty. Roger Milla's dances, of course, the celebration of every goal, everything about it. They definitely bring a huge amount of enjoyment to this. They do go on to achieve more than, as you say, they advance kind of African football history at a World Cup at this stage. I think if I was saying they were touch of greatness, you would be telling me, this team is wins two group games, gets through around a 16 game, and then gets dumped out in the quarterfinals. What would Shane say? What would Shane say? He wouldn't tolerate it.
They'd be blinking greats, mate. No, quite. Blinking greats all day long.
They have to be better than blinkered greats because they do achieve. But I think, don't they? They have to be edge of greatness, don't they?
That's where I started.
Yeah. I can't let you have this one. You can always fight for them in the promotion relegation one, though I suspect you won't. We are talking Cameroon, Milla time, 1990, edge of greatness. Well, that was a lot of fun. It was a good story, that one.
Yeah, and we didn't even get to talk about the Butcher and Waddle celebration against Belgium, which was they did their own version of a disco dance, but nowhere near as great or as exciting as Roger Milla's disco dance.
I'm gonna have to look that one up for.
It's when they got their hands going up and down and
yes, that rings a bell.
Yeah, it's pretty awful. But at the time, I was probably dizzy on the fact that we just beaten Belgium in the very last moment. So I would accept any form of dancing. I've got to say, though, this World Cup, 1990 World Cup, just to kind of bring it home, is ranked statistically as one of the poorest World Cups of all time. Still to this day, average goals, 2.21. That's never been beaten per game. I don't think it will be beaten either. I don't think you're going to get such defensive football ever again. The back pass rule was still in play. That was then removed for the 1994 World Cup, which tried to open the idea of playing more attacking football. But a lot of defensive football was played in this particular World Cup. It was the last time that 2 points was used in the group stage as well to try to encourage teams go in for the victory to get the 3 points for a win in the group stage to give their chance of qualification better. And also, very importantly, and part of Cameroon's legacy in this whole piece, FIFA awarded Africa a third place for the next World Cup. So in 1994, Africa had 3 places, previously 2, which from 1982, previously to that, 1 from 1970. And then we get to 1998 and we get 5 African teams, and that has continued right through to today.
So yes, yeah, no, that's definitely true. I think also that it's 1990 is a funny tournament because I think it's very coloured by our experience as England fans there. So we have a very romantic view of that tournament, and as I say, we will talk about this when we do England 1990. I think there is an argument that England aren't terribly good either. I'm looking forward to rewatching this when we do that research. But here's a spoiler: I think I'm already ranking the England side as edge of greatness. But we will see. We will see. But I think what's definitely interesting is that this tournament, which is quite defensive. Quite defensive. It's very defensive. It has arguably the worst World Cup final there's ever been, and it comes off the back of the 1982 and the 1986 World Cups, which are arguably two of the best in one form or another. 86, I think 86 is an amazing one, and 82 has such great sides in it and has such great moments in it. And 1990 is probably not a classic.
No, but very diluted in English football memory because of the joys of Des Lyman and Nessun Dorma.
Yes. So by the time we get to do the England one, and by the time we've done the full pod, I will be giving them true great status again. But for now, excellent. Okay, well, we should leave it there. Thank you again, Jamie.
Oh, you're very welcome. What have we got coming up?
So we are going from edge of greatness to edge of greatness, I suspect. We are going to look at a great side, though, a very entertaining one. We're going to be looking at the Millwall team. This is a really memorable side because they get into the top tier. Millwall, and they've got a series of as strong personalities, not least the amazing strike force of Tony Cascarino and Teddy Sheringham. And that's before we start talking about Terry Hurlock. We're also going to go back and take a look at another London side. We're going to be going back to 1975 and the great West Ham side there. And they had a real FA Cup final of the legends that they end up playing in that one. And then we got a story that's very close to your heart. We're going to go to Italy in a very understated, sort of relatively unknown story, I suppose.
Maybe outside the walls of the UK, but in Italy, very well known. I was recently in Bologna talking about great teams, and the guy I was talking to, who was only probably 25, knew all about the Torino team of the 1940s. So I think in Italy, their legacy is pretty secure, but probably for very sad reasons.
So we have all those 3 coming up. As a reminder, you can get hold of us on our socials. By all means, suggest any other sides that we should be doing, and we'll speak again soon.